use cases that are social science. And today, my day started with a very nice stuff and Dr. That really motivated me and reiterated. Yeah, so her talk was really motivating and that created in my spirit, sir. And yesterday night, like I was thinking, okay, it's a woman in engineering forum, and how do I encourage my female folks, right? So that they can contribute and they can break those barriers, right, and come out. So her talk was a good motivation for me. And also, I would like to thank Lakshmi ma'am that she gave a very beautiful lecture and educated us on blockchain. And that is something very important. And with that, and we had a very nice session with ma'am about how women in engineering are coping up, and we should not step back. So there was an article by Sudha Murthy that said okay, behind every successful woman there's an understanding man. And I really thank the men, that has they have helped us in achieving our goals. So at Intel, and I think that most of the MNCs and places, the last month was a November week where we thanked the males, right, for their contributions and helping us to achieving our endeavors. So with that, I would like to start the talk for today. And so yesterday, Professor Abdul he brought about how AI can be used or leveraged in social sciences, and he walked us through many of the use cases that we can work on. Right? And that is very close to my heart, and I want to encourage everyone because this is what I've learned from my mentors in my life, right? Whatever we get from capabilities that we build during our career or education, right? It's our duty to, give back. We can only appreciate that capability when we are able to give it back to the society in a good form. Right. So with that, I'll start the topic for today. So I'll be talking about AI for depression, and so that is one of the areas which yesterday sir also talked about AI in healthcare. So that's one of the topics. So nowadays, and we are constantly running behind success, and there is so much of competition. The stress levels are high. We are unsatisfied at many times, and so all these has built up a sense of distress, anxiety, depression, and so I think and that has become part and parcel of our lives, and it should not impact us. We have to be empowered for that. So the depression is a major, common. It's very common illness, mental illness, and it has affected not only psychologically, it has affected physically also. It has impacted our education, our employment, growth areas, right? All our growth areas are get impacted by it. So there was a study by WHO where they said, right, there are approximately 300 million people across the globe, right, who suffer from depression, and it is mainly prevalent in the growing adults, right? Amongst those, it is quite prevalent. And also in the pandemic times, we've seen many, there's an increase in the mental illnesses cases, and so there was another study by WHO where they reported that the worst depression has led to loss of lives, and that is approximately 1 million annually. So And this is why, the severity of the problem has led the researchers to actually focus their studies in this area. So what are the challenges and what are the barriers that we see today in this area, right? So the most common mental health, the most common thing is like there's a lack of resources, lack of health providers, trained health providers, and there's also stigma, social stigma that is associated with it, where people are hesitant to talk about it. They would rather just suffer and not talk about it, and or they are not even aware that they are going through a phase of depression. Right? So that is one that we are not aware what is depression and on which stage of depression we are. So depression will be also if we compare it with our physical ailments that we have. We know there are certain set of diagnostic tests and we will do it once a year and we know what are our stats and we know that we evaluate it. But in terms of depression, there is no such uh, diagnostic type of tools or tests that will, ensure that the subjectivity of the matter is taken care of or considered. And if we also see, depression is kind of a covert in nature because you will find people who will talk about it too much, but they might have really mild symptoms. But we will also see people, they will not even talk about it. They will be silent throughout the sessions. And it is very difficult to know on what stage they are. And so, because that is the reason, this problem has remained undiagnosed and untreated because we lack to understand the subjectivity that goes behind it. Because predominantly, across years, the practitioners are actually relying on some kind of questionnaires. And those questionnaires will question your lifestyle or when were you last diagnosed or what kind of symptoms that are coming. Are you stressed? Are you losing weight? Or are you not able to concentrate? Or so there are many questions. So these questionnaires predominantly they try to find out symptoms with you, right? So this and these symptoms might vary because the intensity of these symptoms, you can say, the behavioral changes, right? They might vary from person to person. So these questionnaires lack the subjectivity issue, right? So that's what we want to understand and work on it, right? So what motivated us, in doing this? One of the main reasons was that detecting earlier stages of depression is a huge step towards this, and so that we can work on, we can support people suffering from it and reduce the number of cases, and also people go to a worse extent of taking their lives. So one was that motivation, right? And the other thing that we see is we don't have a labeled data set that is available currently. So and that data set, as I said, right, the behavioral changes was there are such a huge variation in the data that you cannot simply say, okay, this is he's depressed or he's not depressed, because it depends on how much he is affected by it. Is it a mild symptom or is it moderate or is it a severe case, right? So what we want to leverage on is that if we can, ML is something that everyone is learning about and using, and we have lots of data. So we have that capability, we have that knowledge how ML will work. But it's the data that we have to bring insights on and use that data, use ML on that data. So and so that we can build some systems which can diagnose or automate the entire process of depression and early stages. And so this will actually benefit the people who are not able to go and meet the clinicians, or they are not aware of such systems, or they are hesitant right? So it is the benefit, it will benefit those. So another motivation which actually why we started working on was we came across a team that was actually working on mental health of children who were rescued from trafficking. So, so in that case, we saw like the questionnaires were help. They couldn't help us because children might not understand or they were not even able to answer to those questions. So it was very difficult for us or for even the doctor to analyze what is the severity of depression and will he be recovered or not, whether it will relapse or not. So there were no such decisions could not be taken like that. Also, there is a study that says actually, so almost like 70% of the people, they go and meet a medical practitioner and for depression, and where they'll be given some kind of antidepressants or suppressants, and which is not guaranteeing you to recover from that illness. It is severely suppressing your feelings and making you happy for some time, and then again you take a medicine, you rely on those things. So we need a system that can help us in the entire fight. So what is, I mean, how we are trying to address depression analysis. So we kind of break it down into two things. One is context-free modeling. Why context-free modeling? Right. So we all know sequence. We all learned about sequence modeling and how it helps us to extract the context from the text or audio or video, any kind of data we can have. Also, why context-free modeling is important? Because we don't want to put any constraints on what type of questions the practitioner would ask, and based on those the responses that we get, right? We don't want to put it as a constraint on our model. So the first part of our model is context-free modeling. The second thing is multimodal modeling. So, like I give an example of NGO. So there we had data which was in form of audio, video, and also text. So the text would be like question. They asked something, reply what we got. So they would all record those discussions, and video was something like when we were taking that session, we would record the videos and use them also. So that's why we want to bring about how we can leverage from different modalities of data that is available. So here comes the second part, right? Also, where we want to do a multimodal fusion. So the multimodal fusion, often if we see, they provide very little insight on what is the contribution of every modality that we have taken for analysis. So here in the proposed framework, right, what we did was that we applied attention at everywhere. So the attention will help us to understand that which modality is helping us or is contributing towards the analysis. Also, we will go at the sub-modality level because every modality, like text, you will have 10 different types of features. Audio, you can have really different kind of features, low-level features, and so there are a lot of features that we can extract from these data modalities, but we really want to understand what combination of these features is actually helping us to get a proper outcome. Okay, so that is what we talk of here as submodalities. Submodalities are nothing but the features within each modality, and that we've done using attention layers data. So as I was talking about like features, right? So now this in the framework that we talk about, right? So in this, basically this was a challenge. We developed something that we wanted to assess our framework, right? So we came across the same challenge where they gave us data, and the data was in form of only audio and videos. But we really wanted to understand whether text is helping or not. Right? So what we did was we took text as speech to output of speech to text module. for all the participants in the data, the subjects. And we used a pre-trained sentence encoder model to get the images. Similarly, for audio, we used MMCC or extended GMAPs and their functions. Functions are nothing but like you compute some means or certain functions on your low-level features. And using those functional, we can represent them as back of visual words or back of audio words. So here, what we have done is in case of audio, we've taken back of audio words, and here we've taken. So in case of video, it becomes important that we understand how a person is talking. So facial features, how he is. How are the facial characteristics, a raised eyebrow, or his gaze is not constant, he's constantly moving gaze, and the body posture, or the hand movements, or he is like intermittently he's smiling, or like in audio also we can take examples as where we're taking long pauses when we are speaking, or when we are saying I'm sad, I'm low, right? So if you take it in the audio signal, if you see it in the audio signals, right, you'll see some monotones within the signal that can help you to extract that information. And that will not depend once we have learned a model on such feature, right? It helps us in avoiding that abstraction. We are basically now we have if a new sample or a new subject comes up, a similar type of pattern we are expecting to see within those interviews or audios and visuals, right? So So this is how our multi-layer attention network looks like. Okay. So here, if we see, we have our three inputs, sources. We have visual inputs and audio inputs, transcripts. So as we talked about, text is nothing but text-to-speech output here. Audio we have here, and visual inputs we have used open face library to get the features, facial expressions and all. And so now once, if we see here, right, these are feed forward networks, and we see a loop also, right? So what this is helping us to do is, these are different sub-modalities that we see in the inputs. Now, the neural network is getting trained to check what is the contribution of the sub-modalities, and that for doing that, if you see, we also have a attention layer here connected with the concatenation layer. So now these modalities, sub-modalities are concatenated and passed through attention layer into a biosystem network stack, that biosystem. So now this helps us to understand that what is the contribution of sub-modalities. While if you see, again we go through this concatenation layer and we have attention model here. Right? So the attention model here basically is helping us to understand what is the contribution of these modalities individually. So there are two things that we are doing: attention at every modality and attention at one modality. So sub modality and modality. So now, if you see here, what we are trying to learn on that data set is that we don't want to say whether he is depressed or he's not depressed, right? We want to give a severity score. So severity score, what we did here was based on some of the studies we learned that the severity score can range between 0 to 27. So where if you see anything below is obviously you're not depressed, but if it's near 10 to 14, you are mildly depressed, and if you're something between 15 to 19, you're moderately severe, and then if you're above that, obviously you're severely impacted. So we here, if you see, with all these features, we are learning a regressive model here. So this regressive model will help us to compute the severity scores and tell whether a person is, uh, how severe is the depression. So whether he's like mildly severe or not, right? So in that case, right, what were some of the insights? So what, after doing all the experiments, we went through and collected information on which are the submodalities, we compared, we did the entire experiment was evaluated based on the RBC score because we are learning the severity score. Right? So based on that, there were some insights that we got right, on our models. So one was like we need more of audio data than text or data. Why? So some a sequence model that could learn text with some 7 sequences, whereas audio was taking 30 sequences. And so that implies that the patterns in text are more predictive, while and there's a shorter span of the text, while if you compare it to the audio, right? And also this the second insight that we got was the multi-layer attention loop. It helps us in obtaining a much better insight into the depression. And it is obviously because we are using attention networks, so we are also taking care of the computational time, right? And when the entire challenge was judged, right? So we the proposed method, right, was about that outperformed the baseline by 17%. So that was one of the biggest achievements that yes, we are in the right direction and we can solve problems like these, right? So with this, I mean, these were some of the insights, and I stop here and encourage everyone by not just getting carried away with this kind of a framework, but I'll always ask people to think loud and believe your instincts and go ahead and apply machine learning to this data. And if anyone wants, I also like to thank my contributors, Dr. Anupamari, who works at IIT, and Dr. Prenu, who is assistant professor at JNU. So they were, we three were together in all these things, and if anyone wants to work in this area, you can contact us. We have our GitHub link here, the codes and everything. If you want to go and do a hands-on on data as well as the code, you can go and use this GitHub link also. Thanks. Any questions?
Questions? So, there are analysis of videos which the video analysis they show the expressions which people have, and sometimes the fast frame rates will show an expression which is perhaps the true indication of what somebody is suffering. Okay. So do we have something like that here?
Yes, we do have.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the open phase will be right. So for every frame, we will be taking features from the videos for the expressions, the facial emotions. So as I said, right, if everyone is smiling or raised eyebrows, or when you're sharing a concern, you have different expressions altogether on your face. And even if you're low, right, not only your voice will indicate that you're low, but also your face will have certain expressions. So open face is a very nice library, and that will help you to extract all these features.
Another study which I saw was that it is coming from Facebook. There were a lot of cases where people who were taking a lot of selfies, it turned out they were having depression.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yes, that's also one area. Similar to that, Twitter also started, right? Twitter has very short text, right? And so they actually started with sentiment analysis, but then slowly they build up that database and they use some of the text NLP techniques to tell whether it is depression or not. But they have not been able to tell how severe it is, right? Whereas we wanted to indicate the severity of the issue. And also, I think Twitter is one example because Twitter takes short text, right? And if you see the questionnaires, questions could be like some 10 15 words, but the responses are very short. And that is where the subjectivity is not getting. If someone asked me whether whether I had depression earlier, what my answer would be no, or maybe okay, yes, few years back. So the answers are very discrete, and so the subjectivity is not there, right? And so that's what actually motivated us, right? That we can take into consideration all kinds of inputs. And that is why, if we also compare, we will not, a normal conversation that happens when we are at session, right? It is totally different. We'll be sharing our thoughts, we'll be listening to them, right? So that's entirely different what I think the text could have. There's so many things to explore.
You have been taking facial emotions, right? So, normally if you are going for any deep learning algorithm, we need to have our algorithm to have fed up data with multiple levels will be. So, what are the other categories of data? What will be the other data should be taken? It would be only about the emotional, let us say, continuous readings of their medical vitals. It would be like anything.
See, you can explore any kind of such data points, right? So what we took here was gaze, facial expressions, emotions, and some actions, right, which are very prominent, is seen on our face. So we took some of those, but yes, as you mentioned, right, if we all are wearing smartwatches today, right, we can also leverage on that data, or our health statistics, right? If a depression person, he might have sleepless nights, right? He's always tired. He can be, he's losing weight. So there's so many symptoms of depression, and there are so that only gives rise to that data that we can use to solve this problem.
Ma'am, in most of the cases, high number of cases, there are no physical symptoms for the depression patients. Then how to deal with them? Because inside they are suffering from depression, but in physical symptoms they don't have. They are working normally in their life, and inside they are suffering. So, does it solve the problem or not?
So, see, we saw one of the use cases, right? So, someone came up with a mobile app. Okay? So, that mobile app is actually taking your text messages as input and your calls when you're talking to someone on phone. Because people are not aware of it, right? They are under depression, they are not aware of it. Even if they're aware of it, they won't go to a doctor. We are not, so here I'm not talking about a medical practitioner, right? I'm talking about a plain person who is there, like a psychiatrist, right? We need to understand that thing. We want to encourage people to understand that it is not a bad thing that has happened. You can recover from it. You have to just talk about it. And so, I always tell people, be positive and look out for each other. And we are so we want to help everyone. Take care of each other and move ahead.
Actually, already partially answered. For the question I was about to ask is, most likely what I read is people who are really depressed who needs a diagnosis and treatment. They are unlikely to realize that only they are depressed. They don't even know that they need to consult somebody. So in that sense, this kind of intelligence should ideally be what is called on device.
On device, yes.
So yeah, so that should be a direction for this kind of a thing, which will actually respect the privacy of the individual also. It's my data, my
It
health.
can lie on your edge.
Right. So Yes, so maybe is that the elimination of this model? Like, for example, now you have a model and
Yeah. So yes, so basically our aim was to come up with some framework. Now, how it is put on edge or it is put on your, some other media, or it is as a web app or something, right? So there was another work where they came up with a bot, okay, that will talk to you, conversation that we can always do. We have generation models, we can create bots who will talk to us. But those bots are also trained by the humans. Right? And so what they are doing is they are also trying to capture some of the facial things, some of the utterances, how those utterances can be mapped to text. Right? That's a quite challenging thing how you map the utterances to the correct words, right? In the text or something. And so they also came up with some kind of a bot, a virtual environment where people, they're hesitant to go out and talk, who don't go out and talk, but you can use a virtual assistant. Right?
so I'm already seeing a mobile app ready with you. Like, for example, that model, for example, if you put it on my device,
Yes.
true. That's it. I mean, it can read my seven text sequences and it can figure out. You can,
It sends a alert, right? We all have these SOS things in our, so we can use that data also to send out alert to our near ones and dear ones that your person, your dear fellow is under depression and you need to talk to them. There are different ways that we can enable such things.
well, other since a lot of people are here, what I read recently or heard recently is this algorithms, this recommendation engines, which are running here on YouTube or TikTok and all these things. If you start approaching a topic like depression, they will serve you more content which will make you even more depressed.
Even more depressed.
The algorithm designed like that. I mean, they actually make you little depressed. So how should we really and very conscious of this?
That's one of the challenges, right? We are seriously lacking in resources and trained practitioners who can actually guide us in the right direction.
Thank you.
Now, this is all about identifying whether a person is depressed or not. Now, if you look at the current scenario, most of the people with the stress and other things, sometimes they end up into that state. Can we think about some solutions by using the same technology and the mobile app, where they can keep a track of it and try to think in a positive mode and try
More
to guide them.
motivational.
Yeah, guide them so that they don't enter.
This is a very good area.
Yeah, because that is something after the pandemic, especially if you look at it. And another thing is, if you look at any of the psychiatric disorders, no one wants to accept that there is psychiatric disorder, especially personality disorders. A lot of things will be there. So people always say, I'm right, the other person is wrong. Can we think about solutions so that they can try to trust the systems and say yes, okay, because they cannot trust any human being. Okay, see something like that, such things may help even doctors also.
True.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because they don't trust doctors, no one, they don't like to go to doctors.
even doctors, when talking about this child trafficking, so the doctor himself was in a dilemma. I mean, how do I really assess?
Yeah.
Because kids are not speaking, they are under so much of trauma. They show no expressions also. And so the kids, you cannot take multiple redress sessions with them. It will impact them more. So these are some of the use cases, right, that encourages us all to get into this area and develop something which we can benefit.
Ma'am, actually, lots of people confuse depression and anxiety with depression. So does this model contain anything that classifies anxiety or and between anxiety and depression? Because most of the people confuse it that I am having anxiety. They don't call it anxiety. They call it I am having depression.
So,
But symptoms are always differ of anxiety and depression.
yeah. So yeah, you can. So we can also make it more intelligent, I would say, because that's what I'm trying to convey. right? That there are anxiety is different from depression, right? So there are different kind of features that you can enable within our model system to differentiate even between anxiety, depression, and stress. And if you go to the another level of granularity, right, you can tell what is the impact of that severity of that particular disorder. Right? So it all depends. So this is one model that I presented, right? One framework that I presented. But we can definitely, build something on the same grounds on top of it to have another level of granularity.
So, ma'am, it takes years to realize people that they have depression. So, if they are not realizing, how does this model will help?
So, see, we talked about one.
See, ma'am, actually, if they realize, they don't accept for years. Unless and until their situation are very critical, they don't go to psychological and all. So, how this model will help if they are not realizing this? So, how this model will help?
So, like I answered earlier also, right? So, this is only a framework that you can build, that you can use, right, to convert it into some kind of app or something like that. This is just a backbone. On top of it, you can build something and you can do certain things, like Ratnakar also mentioned, right? Why not a mobile app that sits on my system, on my phone itself? Right? I don't have to go to someone else because I'm not comfortable talking to it. So there are tools which kind of create a virtual environment and where you can talk about it and then what actually is analyzing your stress levels or anxiety levels.
Thank you, Dr. Maybe if you have any more queries, you can continue discussing with her during the lunch break. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Now I request here to present a message to Ritu. Thank you.